Matthew chapter 17 is a powerful chapter that builds on the revelations of chapter 16, further solidifying Jesus' divine identity and foreshadowing his glory. It also presents practical lessons on faith, prayer, and the realities of his earthly mission. In verses 1 through 8 we have the Transfiguration. 6 days after Peter's confession and Jesus' first prediction of his death, Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up a high mountain by themselves. There Jesus is transfigured before them. His face shines like the sun, and his clothes become as white as light. Suddenly, Moses and Elijah appear and are talking with Jesus. These two figures represent the law, Moses, and the prophets, Elijah, signifying that Jesus is the fulfillment of all Old Testament revelation. Peter, overwhelmed by the experience, suggests building 3 shelters. While Peter is still speaking, a bright cloud envelops them, and a voice from the cloud declares, "This is my Son whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." The disciples fall face down in terror. Jesus comes and touches them, telling them not to be afraid. When they look up, they see only Jesus. Moses and Elijah have departed. This story is also in Mark chapter 9 and Luke chapter 9. The key message of the Transfiguration is that this is a glimpse of his divine glory, affirming his identity as the Son of God and the Messiah in a way previously unseen. In verses 9 through 13, Jesus speaks to the coming of Elijah. As they descend the mountain, Jesus commands them not to tell anyone what they have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. This again points to the sequence of his mission, suffering before glory, and the need for the resurrection to fully reveal his identity. The disciples ask why the teachers of the law say Elijah must come first. Jesus confirms that Elijah does come first to restore all things, but adds that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but have done to him everything they wished. The disciples then understood that he was speaking of John the Baptist. This story is also in Mark chapter 9 and Luke chapter 9. The key message is that John the Baptist was the prophesied return of Elijah. In verses 14 through 21, Jesus heals a demon-possessed boy. As they return to the crowd, a man brings his demon-possessed son to Jesus. The boy suffers from seizures, often falling into fire or water. The father explains that he brought his son to the disciples, but they could not heal him. Jesus expresses frustration. "You unbelieving and perverse generation," he says, "how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me." Jesus rebukes the demon, and it comes out of the boy who is healed instantly. Privately, the disciples ask Jesus why they could not drive out the demon. Jesus tells them it was because of their little faith. He famously states, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." He adds that this kind of demon does not go out except by prayer and fasting. The key message is that this teaches the disciples about the power of faith and the necessity of dependence on God through prayer and possibly fasting for certain spiritual battles. In verses 22 through 23, Jesus predicts his death for the second time. While they are traveling in Galilee, Jesus again tells his disciples that the Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and on the 3rd day he will be raised to life. This story is also in Mark chapter 9. The key message is that the disciples are still struggling to comprehend a suffering Messiah. In verse 24 through 27, Jesus talks about the temple tax. In Capernaum, tax collectors ask Peter if Jesus pays the temple tax. Peter replies, "Yes, he does." Inside the house, Jesus preempts Peter by asking him, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes? From their own children or from others?" Peter answers, "From others." Jesus then concludes, "Then the children are exempt." This implies that as the Son of God, he is rightfully exempt from paying tax to his Father's house, the temple. However, to avoid offending them, Jesus instructs Peter to go to the lake, throw out his line, and take the first fish he catches. Inside its mouth, he will find a 4 drachma coin, which he is to take and give to the tax collectors for both of them. The key message is that this miracle demonstrates Jesus' divine knowledge, control over creation, and his willingness to submit to earthly authorities for the sake of not causing offense, even when exempt. There are 4 key themes in Matthew chapter 17. 1. Jesus' divine glory. The Transfiguration reveals Jesus' divine nature and fulfills the law, Moses, and the prophets, Elijah. 2. Faith and power. A lack of faith limits what God can do through us. True faith unlocks spiritual authority. 3. Jesus' mission. He continues to prepare his disciples for his coming death and resurrection. 4. Sonship and freedom. Jesus as the Son of God is above temple regulations, yet he models humility and responsibility. Chapter 17 is a rich tapestry of revelation about Jesus' divine identity, the importance of faith, and the challenging path of discipleship that involves suffering before glory. It also reveals Jesus' authority over nature, spirits, and human institutions. This chapter challenges us to ask ourselves 3 key questions. Am I listening to Jesus, as the Father commands? Do I have faith, even small faith, that God can work through me? Am I growing in my understanding that following Jesus includes suffering, but also future glory?